Hi, FMC friends. It's the last Sunday school lesson in our Shine curriculum. So we are going to be at the end of the book. And so I'm just going to say that after this week, there will still be children's features posted on our website, our YouTube links. And you can check them out every Sunday morning. They just won't be using the Shine curriculum and they won't be as long. But I still plan to do story time and a song each weekend that's not a long weekend. This week, the title for the theme is Caring for Those in Need. And I'm going to start by reading from Matthew 25 in our Shine Bible, in my Shine Bible. And I'm going to use a few props to help tell the story. I'm sorry about the sunlight coming in and out. When the clouds pass, I think the camera zooms in and out or tries to clarify. So that's all that is. Anyways, I'm going to use some props. And I made a last minute decision to come to my office to record this weekend's story because I'm kind of sick of working from home with everybody around and making noise. So I thought I'd come into the office today, but then I realized once I got here, I would be stuck with working using whatever props I could find in my purse or in my office. So it's kind of been a scrounge around type of thing. So some of them might be a little bit silly. So I'm reading from Matthew 25. The Son of Man, which is Jesus, will come in glory, and he will be like a king sitting on a throne. All the people of the world will come to hear him. So this is my deluxe Miracle Jesus action figure. I think I've brought him out before at a children's story in church, and he has hands that glow in the dark. I'm not going to try that now. But he also can turn water into wine. And Jesus was a pretty fantastic guy who did things that kind of blew people away. And as we listen to the rest of the story, it's important to remember that the description of him in the beginning of Matthew 25 talks about him being like a king. And so that's how people around were thinking about who God would send to them, a king. And Jesus was that king. But we have a different perspective now than people would have in his time, because you'll see. And to some people, he will say, "You are blessed, for I was hungry and you gave me food." Here is some food. I found some Korean noodles and plastic cutlery in my office. So that's going to be a representation of feeding the hungry. He will say, "I was thirsty and you gave me something to drink." This was actually in my purse. He will say, "I was a stranger and you welcomed me." Now, the curriculum recommended using a welcome sign, and I thought I would do something more interesting, maybe. On our bulletins, which we're not getting right now, but when we were in church and when we're back in church, we use bulletins for every service. And if you have not noticed, I highlighted it for easier seeing, we have a welcome statement on each and every bulletin. It's also on our website, and we keep it there to remind people, to remind ourselves to be welcoming, but also to let visitors in our church know that we welcome all peoples. And this is a really important piece of our identity at First Mennonite. So this is representing being welcoming. Another thing, maybe I don't have it here, was, I was gonna have name tags, but the closest I came was my MCC sticker. I didn't have name stickers. Anyways, whatever. So that's being welcoming. I was naked and you gave me clothing. Right. So we actually have a bag of clothing, and this ties in with the last one, welcoming strangers and clothing those who need clothes. I have a big bag here. Maybe you can see. I'll lift it up a bit. It's huge. So this winter, before all the COVID stuff hit, the youth group fundraised, and we were asked to put together a welcome package for the refugee family that we're expecting. And now we don't know when they're going to arrive. That's kind of up in the air. Hopefully it will be soon. But we are waiting to welcome a whole new family, and they're actually related to Amos and Esther and their kids. And they have some little children as well. So we went shopping, and we have all kinds of cute baby clothes that the baby's probably going to be too big for by the time they actually arrive. But that's all the clothing I could find in my office. And it also ties in with welcoming strangers, because that's another piece of our identity here, is that we love to welcome new people into our church, and I think we should celebrate that. Okay, he will say, "I was sick and you took care of me." Well, I don't have any medical badges or stethoscopes or anything like that, but I did have Tylenol in my purse, and in this thing we also have more of a visual aid. This is something that we are going to give the family, because when you have little kids, they sometimes get sick a lot, and these are some of the things you need to take care of sick children, or sick adults too. There's a thermometer and some other things for care, and so that represents caring for those who are sick. And he will say, "I was in prison and you visited me." Now, this doesn't necessarily mean visiting people specifically in prison. I mean, it can. Lots of people do that kind of thing, and that's really, really important. But just so for better context, lots of situations can feel kind of like prisons. Sometimes we even might think of how we're living now as feeling confined. Like we can't go out a whole lot, we don't feel like we have a lot of freedom. And I especially feel like people, seniors who are living in care homes, might feel confined now too, because they're not even allowed to have their family come visit them. They might be allowed soon to see people outside, but all they've been able to do was look out their window and wave at their family. And so we're really feeling like we need human connection. And so for my representation of visiting the imprisoned, I have a little flower that Siga made in Sunday school. So if you're in her class, maybe you have something like this. Because when we visit people, sometimes we bring little gifts. And I also have a card, because in these days when we're feeling kind of confined, and maybe we do use the word imprisoned, feeling like that a bit in our homes. It's better now that we can go outside. But for sure, over the colder days, I got a card in the mail just this morning, and Siga opened it, and it was from somebody at our church. It was from somebody at First Mennonite, and they were sending a card to say, "Hey, how are you doing? I hope you're well, and we're thinking about you, and you're a valued, loved part of our church at First Mennonite." And that was really, really nice. It had all of our names on it, and it's a reminder that we are loved, and that even though we can't go out and visit right now, people are still making the effort to connect with us and remind us that we're part of this community of care. All right, so those are all of our reminders. And then after saying that, those people will ask the king, "Lord, when did we see you hungry or thirsty and give you water and food? When did we come and welcome you or give you clothing? When did we see you sick or in prison and visit you?" Because the people who heard him were wondering, Jesus said that you're blessed when you clothe me and feed me and visit me and welcome me. But they were thinking to themselves as they listened to Jesus say these things, "We've never done this for Jesus. Jesus has clothes on. Jesus has food to eat. Jesus has friends. When did we do this?" And then Jesus answered them, "When you cared for those who were in need you cared for me. And then the king will say to the other people, and he means people who didn't do these things, that you have treated me badly. I was hungry and you didn't give me food. I was thirsty and you didn't give me anything to drink. I was a stranger and you did not welcome me. I was naked and you didn't give me clothing. I was sick and you didn't take care of me. I was in prison and you didn't visit me. And then those people listening will ask the king, Lord, when did we see you hungry or thirsty or a stranger or naked or sick or in prison? When did we not take care of you? They're really confused by him saying this, if it's not clear. And then the king, Jesus, will answer, when you did not take care of others who were in need, that is when you did not take care of me. So that's the end of that reading. And something for us to think about is how you might have felt listening to the story. So if you're thinking that Jesus was going to be a mighty king, a great ruler sitting on a throne, would you expect Jesus to need anything? I guess you don't really think of royalty or kings or anything really being in need of anything. And Jesus was showing the people and telling them about how he was very different from maybe how they expected the Son of God to be, a king to be. Jesus was a servant king, and he was trying to tell people that. And he was saying, he was identifying with the people in need, the lowliest people, the poorest people, the people who had nothing or had nobody. And this would have been a huge shock to a lot of people, that their Messiah, their king, was kind of making himself lowly and identifying with people who are in need. And so, I wonder if you can relate to any parts of the story, or if you have any images or memories of times you might have seen people, in your daily life, maybe at school, somebody who needed to be welcomed, or even if you're driving around the city, maybe you saw somebody who looked like they might have needed food. And just to think about how Jesus calls us to service. And one of the other cool things about me doing this in my office is I have a poster on my bulletin board that's been there since the very first, I think, year I've been here. I'm gonna try to take you on a tour. I have this lovely sign. Oh, hi David, there's David. But I also have this poster from MCC. And I really love it because it's just one statement, kind of like our welcoming statement. It's one statement, but it's a statement that means a lot. And it says, Mennonite Central Committee shares God's love and compassion for all in the name of Christ by responding to basic human needs and working for peace and justice. And so in these times, here's my MCC sticker. I love MCC. And in these times where we have a hard time thinking about how we might reach out to others when we're not really supposed to be reaching out, at least physically, we might wonder what we're doing. So one of the cool things I might encourage you to do is to visit the MCC website, because sometimes they have videos that can educate us about options or programs that they're doing. Sometimes at church we have a big water jug out and we collect change to help people in need with different programs that MCC offers. But they do all of the different actions that Jesus calls us to in that passage. So when you give to MCC, you're giving so that people can have clean water, can have enough food in their bellies to go about their days. We can help people get education supplies, and you've done that by just being a part of Sunday school. You will have helped to raise money for an MCC program that does just that, an education program with kids across the globe. And it's really cool. And they also work with people who are imprisoned and isolated, and pretty much the whole range of things that this passage covers. And so Deluxe Miracle Jesus wants to encourage you to think about this verse as we head into the coming weeks and think about what you might do to respond to it as a follower of Jesus. And it's interesting. I was thinking about this guy actually this week. I thought, oh, I wish I had my action figure. That's another reason I decided to come to church. Because I thought about all the miracles Jesus did. Because when you think about a king, you think about somebody mighty and grand. And when I think about the miracles of Jesus, I think those were mighty and grand actions. But when you really, really think about it, like even here, it comes with bread, because Jesus multiplied the bread and the fish. You probably can't see it, but there's little breads there, little baguettes. Most of the miracles Jesus did, even though they might have been like showy and fantastic and mighty acts, they were getting at the very core of this passage that I read today. Because when Jesus multiplied the bread, he was giving people who were hungry something to eat. And when he turned water into wine, he was giving people at a wedding celebration something to drink because they had run out. And when Jesus healed people, he was looking after those who were sick. And when Jesus ate at tables with people who he was criticized for hanging out with, people sometimes said Jesus hangs out with too many sinners. He knew that those are the people that most needed someone to hang out with. And so I actually kind of really like what this glowing hands miracle Jesus represents, because he represents reaching out to people who are in need. And sometimes we're the ones in need and we can accept help from others, but sometimes we're able to reach out and be the helpers. And so I'm going to say a prayer. Help us, Lord Jesus, to care for our friends. Help us to love them, it's your great command. Oh, wind of the Spirit, fill the sails of my soul. Send us on, Lord, let your wind blow. Oh, wind of the Spirit, fill the sails of my soul. Send us on, Lord, let your wind blow. Your Spirit is moving with power and might. We'll walk together by faith, not by sight. You're calling your people to rise and unite. Standing together, we'll share Jesus' light. Oh, wind of the Spirit, fill the sails of my soul. Send us on, Lord, let your wind blow. Oh, wind of the Spirit, fill the sails of my soul. Send us on, Lord, let your wind blow. Have a good week, everyone. See you next Sunday.